working around the clock, and we won't stop until we have every customer's light back on.
And North Carolina.
Amidst the destruction, towns are moving in the right direction.
There's been a lot of improvements. It's moved faster than I thought.
New information about the 100 aggressive raccoons that showed up in a woman's yard.
When they don't get the food that they want, they get aggressive, angry.
And increasing concerns about the damage murder hornets could cause in Washington state.
The beehive would be killed before the beekeeper knew.
Plus, increase your weather IQ in today's edition of Social Meteorology.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Emma Withrow. Odds are decreasing this morning that a disturbance in the Atlantic Ocean will develop into a tropical storm, but we're still going to need to keep an eye on it just in case that does happen. So meteorologist Jennifer Collins is tracking the tropics for us this morning and has more.
All right, here's a look right now at the tropics. We're monitoring this wave right here in the Atlantic. Odds have now dropped of this becoming a tropical system. Regardless, it will bring a heavy rainfall threat to the greater Antilles over the next few days. Same thing with this cluster of showers and thunderstorms in the Western Caribbean will eventually work its way over parts of Central America. Now, so far this season, we've had 13 total storms, 9 of those hurricanes, 4 of those major hurricanes. So we're not looking at anything developing here over the short time frame. Next name of the season is Nadine. And we are approaching the end of hurricane season. Now it is on November 30th. We still remain active through the rest of October, but we are on the tail end of our activity kind of decreasing here.
We have new video this morning of the cleanup efforts in Florida 1 week after Hurricane Milton stormed ashore. Our storm chaser Brett Adair flew his drone over Minnesota Key, a narrow strip of the land south of Sarasota. That community really saw some of the worst damage all in Florida. 4 to 6 feet of sand, we're talking, covered roads and was inside of many of those homes. Some residents are now deciding if they should rebuild or just move elsewhere. Statewide, 22,000 homes and businesses are still without power this morning. Al Peefley is in Vero Beach on Florida's Atlantic coast, where homeowners say they're just patiently waiting.
And this is just part of the damage that hit our house. Looks like something out of a movie.
Chris Vick lives on El Perdido Street on North Hutchinson Island.
I was totally amazed and extremely overwhelmed.
He still does not have electricity 1 week after a tornado from Hurricane Milton tore through the Bethel Creek neighborhood in Vero Beach where he lives. Vic says his power has been out since last Wednesday evening.
The recovery operations taking this long are completely understandable because these guys are working through the night.
Another resident impacted by the tornado, Pamela Reeves.
I just came back from the grocery store. I was in the kitchen, and all of a sudden I heard this gigantic noise, walked out of the kitchen, and I looked and I could see this funnel coming my way.
She just got her power back on Tuesday.
I know it took a long time, but that was a tornado, and they're doing their best.
FPL workers are on her street working to restore power to all the homes.
So here in Vero Beach, one of the hardest hit areas from the storm, we're working around the clock. You see the crews behind me. They're going into backyards, resetting poles to get the lights back on for those hardest hit customers. And we won't stop until we have every customer's light back on.
Cleanup efforts started almost immediately after the storms rolled through Wellington last week. People living at Pine Trace at Binks Forest say it's been back-breaking work. And as the debris piles up, it's getting harder to continue. People tell us they're now running out of room.
We were cutting trees out of second stories over there, off of those cars over there.
2 contractors we have working here today. The subcontractors are Wellington-based contractors. Wellington working for Wellington. It is a slow process, and it's one that we are committed to all the way to the end.
Village manager Jim Barnes, who you also just heard from, says the storm damaged nearly 230 homes in Wellington. He says they've arranged for crews to visit all of the heaviest hit areas. That's meant to give people a chance to see their present and progress in the area.
Now moving over to North Carolina, 92 people are still listed as missing after Hurricane Helene ravaged Asheville and the western part of the state. All told, the storm took at least 228 lives across the southeast. For many of these survivors, the recovery has definitely not been easy and is likely going to go on for months, if not years. We have 2 reports on the continued cleanup and impacts from Helene. We begin with Rex Hodge with farmers who are still seeing the fallout from major flooding.
We get hay from guys locally, and then some of them have lost it because of of the bad weather.
Their barn escaped damage, but not everything.
The rest of the farm area was pretty damaged, and then like Annie said, our access to hay has been pretty compromised.
Word spread.
Go to the livestock yard and get hay.
It's stacked all around to help farmers recover.
Amazed at the amount of people donating. It's incredible.
People are coming from near and far to the livestock center to drop feed off for animals, and volunteers also bringing materials in that are needed.
We're just collecting stuff and bringing it up here.
Billy and Janice Farmer are making multiple trips from Georgia to help out.
Right now they're asking for a lot of fencing.
They especially want to help the animals.
It's the livestock and the animals, the dogs, cats, chickens, horses, goats. They're the ones that can't help themselves.
Of course, Henderson County is pretty big in agriculture.
Terry Kelly is Henderson County's tree fruit agent with the Extension Office. He says the crop loss from Helene is massive.
The crop loss alone could easily exceed $50 million.
The county is known for apples and other perennial crops like peaches and blackberries. Kelly says there's more than the initial loss from the storm.
So these trees and plants that were lost, when they're replaced, we're not going to be getting any yield from them for, anywhere from 2 to 5 years.
We are basically getting back with our infrastructure. So I'm bringing you a good report.
444 roads still closed across the region, down from 1,200 according to Governor Roy Cooper. It's what he sees as the greatest long-term challenge.
Making sure that we are turning on every spigot of state and federal resources that we possibly can.
Consciously rebuilding for the future.
We have to be mindful of where this water can go when we look at how we invest in rebuilding.
Especially true in Yancey County's Pensacola community.
Well, when I walked out and looked at my road, I told my wife, I said, we'll never have a road to our house again.
Bradley Boone is Pensacola's assistant fire chief.
It looked like an atomic bomb had went off. I just couldn't, in my mind, I couldn't conceive how they could ever fix it,
But he drove his Jeep to the station Wednesday.
Honestly, there's been a lot of improvements. It's moved faster than I thought. There's still a lot of work to do, but we're getting there one day at a time.
It's a long road to recovery, but the mountain spirit remains unshakable.
If you ever lose faith in humanity, all you have to do is spend a half a day in western North Carolina after this disaster. You'll get it back.
We've got some new body camera video that shows the moment sheriff's deputies encountered about 100 raccoons that took over a Washington State woman's property. Now it appears things might be under control, luckily. Karina Vargas shares the update and warning from local officials over there.
It was a sight to see for a woman living in Poulsbo whose backyard was invaded by raccoons. Newly released body camera video from Kitsap County Sheriff's Office shows the nearly 100 raccoons surrounding them. We spoke with Mitchell Draper, who is a wildlife control operator, who says raccoons are motivated by food.
But they wake up in the morning, they make a beeline for their food source. And when they don't get the food that they want, they get aggressive, angry.
The woman told deputies she's been feeding nearby raccoons for about 35 years, but within the past 6 weeks, it became too much for her as they swarmed her home and bugged her all hours of the night. The Department of Fish and Wildlife said the homeowner removed all human food sources from the property, and seems like that did the trick for them to leave. Officials with the Kitsap County Sheriff's Office said they had never seen anything like this.
Wild raccoons are not safe to toy with. People shouldn't get near them. They certainly shouldn't feed them.
You've just trained over 100 raccoons that they can feed off of people, and now they're going to go elsewhere and maybe potentially cause issues with other people.
And did you guys catch last night's supermoon? The so-called Hunter's Moon was the closest supermoon of the year, only 222,000 miles from Earth. That means it appeared up to 8% larger and 16% brighter than it normally does. It peaked last night, but don't worry, it's still going to appear through tomorrow morning, so you'll get another chance to see it if you missed it. And if you missed it, there's one more supermoon this year. So the so-called Beaver Moon peaks on November 15th, so you'll mark your calendars for that if you miss tomorrow night's. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll learn about the invasive species threatening honeybee populations in Washington State. And we'll look at how cold temperatures can impact crops and plants and how you can protect your own garden at home.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. It's a chilly start in the Northeast this morning, but the sun's going to warm us back into the 50s. Today's a seasonable day with full sunshine, a little storm system. That one's going to stay off to our south. Notice those high temperatures. There they are in the 50s with a lot of sunshine. That's 2 o'clock this afternoon. Now, Friday begins the warm-up. We'll have unlimited sun that day as well as high pressure remains in control. 60s will be common for highs. We should be in the 60s to possibly near 70 on Saturday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region after a chilly start for your Thursday. We'll likely still get to some cool afternoon highs. An area of low pressure passing offshore may bring a little bit of cloud cover or a shower to the immediate coastline. But other than that, high pressure is just going to build in as we move towards the weekend, and it'll make for some very nice, almost cloud-free weather going all into next week. Temperatures will be on the cool side for your afternoon in the 60s, but will be almost 10 degrees warmer for your Friday.
I'm meteorologist Vetus Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs. We're seeing comfortable temperatures across parts of the southeast. 66 in Nashville, Tupelo 69 degrees, Raleigh a comfortable 62 degrees, 70 in Jacksonville, 77 in Tampa. Much more comfortable air and dry across the area. High pressure pretty much in control of our weather pattern as we continue to see clear conditions here. A little bit of an off-coast system over towards the outer banks of North Carolina, but looks like a lot of sunshine involved as we go through the next couple of days.
The National Weather Desk.
Several areas across the country are starting to see frost and freeze warnings. It could have major implications for plants and crops. Katie Arata is in Oklahoma and looks at the impacts on farmers and at-home growers.
The broccoli and the lettuce and things might have freezing damage, like what you might see if your refrigerator is too cold in one spot and your crop kind of gets that soft, mushy feeling to it. You're just degrading the quality of the crop.
Cool weather crops like these here, which are broccoli and romaine, won't be impacted as much by a freeze as warm weather crops like tomatoes and okra, which because of the cooler weather will most likely be facing their last harvest of the season. People growing crops or plants at home should also make an effort to keep them warm when temperatures dip.
So you can get kind of creative with it. You can use things like trash bags or cardboard boxes or even sheets and stuff to be able to cover up those plants, or you can bring them closer to your home and the residual heat from your house can kind of warm up those plants and keep them alive over the frost.
A hornet that can wipe out entire hives of honeybees may have made some new inroads in Washington state. If left unchecked, the so-called murder hornets could devastate the agricultural industry. Joel Marino shows us the dangers posed by these invasive pests that were thought to be eradicated from the state already.
Usually I don't have to smoke them as much.
Tending honeybees is something of an art form, and Jeffrey Rupert at Into the Blue Farm gives them plenty of attention.
I make sure that my hives are grunt heavy, so that they have enough food storage for the winter.
But honeybees across the state could be threatened by the return of the northern giant hornet. A comparison between the two shows how dominant these invasive pests can be. One reason they came to be called murder hornets.
Once a hornet colony were to find a beehive, it's likely that the beehive would be killed before the beekeeper knew.
The State Department of Agriculture says someone reported finding a giant hornet in a windowsill earlier this week.
We can't say that it is for sure until we get the specimen and we're able to put our eyes on it. Our entomologists are able to test it and see exactly for sure.
Scientists want to do genetic testing on the specimen to see if it is connected to a series of nests in Whatcom County that were thought to be eradicated. If they went unchecked, they could decimate honeybee populations, meaning crops might not get pollinated and farms couldn't grow the food people need.
If the Hornet was to get established in Washington state, it would be very difficult to eradicate it from moving all the way down the coast.
Traps have gone up around Burley and in other locations in case any more hornets are in the area.
Our best strategy is to get rid of them before they get a foothold.
So it's been 138 years since South Carolina saw significant damage from an earthquake, but the state sees up to 20 quakes each year, and one day one of those could be major. So Katie Solt spoke with an expert about when or if another devastating quake strike could happen.
So the 1886 earthquake was centered under Somerville, did all the damage in Charleston. Of course, that's the big one.
Steve Jame teaches geological science at the College of Charleston, and he's been looking closely at seismograph readings the past few days. The U.S. Geological Survey indicated 9 earthquakes over the course of just 3 days in one spot in the upstate, what Jame calls an earthquake swarm.
An earthquake swarm is a group of earthquakes where no single one of them stands head and shoulders above the others in terms of its magnitude. So basically this past weekend, there's been a swarm of earthquakes near Greenwood, South Carolina.
The earthquakes averaged just over 2 when measured on the Richter scale. Jame says it takes a bit more to see any significant impact.
You pretty much need to get a little bit larger, start getting up closer to magnitude 4, and then you'll start knocking things off shelves. Be more cosmetic damage. When you get up to about 5, you can start getting some structural damage, but it'd be, again, mostly on buildings that aren't really built for earthquakes. Poorly built masonry buildings tend to start coming apart.
Even though it's been more than a century since that kind of destruction, state leaders still participate in Earthquake Preparedness Week to make sure, like with hurricanes, people have all the tools and information they need.
You may be the help until help arrives, so you need to be self-sufficient as much as possible. Individuals should be their own emergency manager and prepare for all kinds of events.
And if your home does start shaking, remember, drop, cover, and hold on.
And now it's time for a segment we call Social Meteorology. This is where we share social media posts from our team of meteorologists across the country. The idea is to help you better understand the weather. So we're going to begin with Joy Bettenhausen in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who shares some weather folklore involving persimmon fruit.
You want to cut open the fruit, cut the seed long ways, and look at the shape. If you see a spoon, that means you're going to be shoveling a lot of snow. If you see a knife, that means a cutting wind, sharp wind and cold temperatures. And if you see a fork, light powdery snow. Jonathan in the Chelsea, Oklahoma area dug into some of his, and look what we found. Those look like spoons to me. So are we going to be shoveling some snow? Again, this is folklore, so there's no scientific research behind this saying that this is forecasting for the winter. This is just something fun to do.
Sometimes in the world of weather, when there's a big temperature pattern change from, say, comfortable or warm down to much colder weather, I like to use the analogy like you're going from being in the hot tub for a while and then jumping in the pool. Let's go in the hot tub for a little bit here, at least my hands, and see how it feels. You know, temperatures here are not too hot, but I could stay in this bucket of water for my hands for quite a while here and not have any hesitation to get out. Unless maybe I wanted to stretch my legs and do some laps. Let me jump in the pool for a little bit. I can take care of that. Oh yeah, I can definitely feel the change in the temperature here. I don't think I want to stay in the pool too much longer. Relative to where I just was, it feels so much colder and so much different. So the next time you hear about a pattern change in the forecast from comfortable to warm to very cold, almost wintry weather, think of this analogy like you're going from the hot tub over to the pool.
Tell me if this has ever happened to you. You get in your car on the first cold morning of the winter and you see this little symbol. After a little bit of investigation, you find out that your tire pressure is low. But you know your tire pressure was fine yesterday, so what changed while you were sleeping overnight? The temperature. That's what changed. So why does temperature impact tire pressure? Take a look. Air molecules behave differently depending on the temperature. When it's warm, air molecules move quickly and take up more space, so the pressure inside your tire is higher. When it's cold, air molecules move slower and don't take up as much space, so your tire pressure drops. So when you see that little light pop up, it's important to put more air in your tires. If you drive around on tires where the pressure's too low, it can cause tire stress and uneven wear, so you'll have to replace your tires more often.
And if you like this segment, we've got a lot more content just like this on our social media accounts. You can find us on all your favorite platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, and TikTok. Just search the National Weather Desk. And now it's time for a short break, but first we're going to take a view of the changing leaves in northern Michigan.
Well, a very good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Quiet weather across the Midwest as you're going out the door today. A lot of sunshine with a few clouds across the plains. Jumping into the day tomorrow, we've got an approaching cold front starting to cool down the Dakotas for Friday, but most of the Midwest in the 60s and 70s tomorrow. And we'll continue to see that cold front kind of lose some of its steam a little bit and stall out, but still 70s and sunny across a lot of it.
Well, a good Thursday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast across the region today, starting with a bit of a chill in the air, 30s and 40s. Out the door temperatures in parts of the region. The afternoon, very nice day. Sunshine, 60s and 70s to near 80 in Corpus Christi. We head to Friday's forecast. Again, another very cool start to the day. The afternoon, a mix of clouds and sun. Might get a little sprinkle of shower across Texas. Very comfortable temperatures.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the West. Temperatures are cooling down, in fact, down below average in places for the Pacific Northwest and getting into parts of the Southwest, continuing to see those temperatures drop. With the cold front that's moving through, it's whipping up wind in parts of Nevada and Utah, bringing critical fire weather, but it's significant mountain snow that's also coming down across Idaho through the Clearwaters. That's the scene from here.
Presented by the National Weather Desk.
Finally getting colder. Both Nashville and Little Rock got off to frosty starts Wednesday morning. The first grapple of the season fell in Cincinnati, and snow covers the top of a New Hampshire mountain. Western North Carolina saw a dusting of snow, and that's not good for folks there still waiting for power to be restored after Hurricane Helene. And a lone deer takes in Tuesday night's fiery sunset near Springfield, Illinois.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on TikTok.
So every day we showcase awesome content from our team of meteorologists, but now it's time to see a bit of the great content we get from our viewers through our Chime In platform. So let's first go to Syracuse, New York, and the amazing show of this double rainbow. If you look closely at double rainbows, you'll see the colors are actually reversed. And now moving on to Montana, the aspens are radiating brilliant gold at Red Rock Lakes National Wildlife Refuge. And now over to central Alabama and this brilliant red sunrise over Lay Lake. And time to take a look at this water spout on Lake Michigan. This was spotted along the shores of Wisconsin. Water spouts are pretty common on the Great Lakes from August through October when cooler air moves through over the lake, the warmer lake waters. We're also told that this water spout was in rotation between 10 and 15 minutes. We're going to be right back. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Emma Withrow. Make it a great Thursday, and we're going to see you right back here tomorrow.